Hey, Links Outdoors here, and I want to talk to you today about a very exciting new headlamp by Nitecore called the NU20 Classic. Before we get started, I wanted to just do a really fast rundown of sort of my experience with these various headlamps. This is my fourth Nitecore, and I've used them from everything from shorter few 100-mile through hikes all the way up to some of the big stuff. Like, for example, I used this guy in the PCT this year. So stay tuned, and I'm gonna kind of show you some of the exciting new features that I didn't know that it had until I actually bought one and had it in my hands. Let's talk about all the specs and features for the NU20 Classic. So first and foremost, it's tiny and it's very lightweight. It's only 30 grams as you see it set up with this aftermarket shock cord and cord lock that I've got on here. So I really like that they went back to the old layout options, and just to recap that, it's got the left button over here is the power. It goes through low, medium, high, and off. You can press it to turn it on, press and hold once it's on, and it goes to turbo, which is really bright. You can press the right button, this one, it turns on low red, high red, and then red strobe. Every time that you turn the light on, it flashes the battery level for you over here on this indicator with the blue lights. Hopefully you can see that. And then to lock it, you press and hold both buttons, and then it will flash this red light, this white light at you to let you know that it's locked now. Now if you press it, it flashes that strobe at you to let you know that it's locked. And then you press and hold for a while until you see it come on low light, and now it's unlocked. After waiting about 3 seconds, you can press either button and it'll turn the light off, as opposed to having to cycle through low, medium, high, and off. The last thing is if you press and hold this button on the side here, it turns on what they call the reading light. And so this is brighter than the lowest output, but not quite as bright as the medium output. And it's in a different LED that does like a softer white light. And so that's really good for reading, which is why they actually call it that. It's basically like a nice, bright, comforting, warm light that's a floodlight in front of you. And it's pretty nice. They've added a USB-C charging port to the left-hand side. You can charge this from a battery bank while it's on, so it can run off of your battery bank. And now that this is on the side, the cord isn't sticking in your face, which is the issue with the really old original NU25. Panel back here is fully foamed, which I think is great. And also you have the ability to take whatever cordage comes on it, on and off without having to cut anything, which I think is great for changing things out in the future. This has a 500 milliamp hour battery that's rechargeable, and I think it's amazing. It's priced inexpensively. It's commonly on sale for under $30. I think its MSRP is about $35. And in my opinion, this is the best headlamp for thru hiking at the moment. So to get started, most of us have had headlamps like this in the past. So this is a Black Diamond Storm. But technically it's the Revolt model, it's rechargeable. But this thing's pretty hefty. You can see it's got a big band for comfort with these big adjusters. But this is the kind of thing that I used on the Appalachian Trail 10 years ago in 2014. I had a battery that used AAAs just like this, and it's heavy and bulky. Let's actually get some weights as we go here. So this is kind of the traditional. And this thing is coming in at 3.5 ounces, or otherwise 99 grams. So to give you an idea of that. So fast forward until after the Appalachian Trail and I decided that I wanted to go lighter, I discovered this guy here, which I believe this came out in 2016. And so this is the Classic Nitecore NU25, and it's just called, it was previous, but there's a new model of it, but this was the original model of it, and it wasn't called the Classic, it was just called the NU25, it's the original. And so this thing, I fell in love with immediately, because I was already carrying a battery bank to recharge my phone and other electronics, and this is rechargeable as well. And so it makes it so you don't need to have as big of a battery inside of it, because you can top it off with your battery bank, so you're not carrying as much weight on your head, and you're not carrying that much extra battery weight when you already have a really big battery bank that's got all the juice you could want in it anyway. So I really liked the features of this one and the simplicity of it, and so I really fell in love with this design. The next one that I purchased was this one, and this is the new revamped version of the NU25, and I got really excited for it because basically they modernized some of the features of this Classic. Really quick to talk about what that was basically they took a micro USB that was here on the bottom, and they gave it a USB-C, which is what most electronics are moving to. It can charge a lot faster that way. And also it's more compatible with the other charging cables that I need to bring for everything else anyway. So I really like that. But they did it kind of like a whole revamp. Like this could actually be called its own headlamp with nothing to do with the NU25, because everything from the interface and the types of LEDs changed on it. So basically they just sort of made a new headlamp and called it the same thing. And there was kind of this big, I don't want to say uproar, but there was two camps. People were super excited and thought this was the best headlamp ever, because it is a great headlamp. But a lot of people that had this version were really bummed that they didn't just modernize this version. Instead, they made basically a new headlamp. So fast forward a little bit, I think a year after I got this one, to this model, this is the NU21, and I was incorrect when I bought this. I thought what this was the modernization of this exact unit here, but I was wrong. It's not. This is basically a simplified version of the NU25 with less features and a little bit less weight and a smaller battery. So this headlamp I've barely used. I kind of keep this one by the back door when I have to go walk the dog at night or something. But what I'm here to actually talk to you about today is the exciting NU20 Classic. They even call it the Classic right on the back of the headlamp. And what this is what I've actually been waiting for, and this is the modernized version of the Classic NU25, or the original, whatever you want to call it. So the interfaces and everything are the same as this. It uses USB charging, or USB-C charging, I should say, as opposed to this. It has battery level indicators, it's brighter, and it uses a smaller size rechargeable battery, which I actually prefer because I don't do a ton of night hiking in general. So I'd rather this be smaller and lighter and rechargeable. The other thing that was really smart that they did was they changed the charging port's location from being on the bottom. So if you were wearing this, the charging cable would be coming down in your face, and they put it onto the side here. And that's not the most comfortable thing in the world to do, is to walk with the charging cable going up to your head, but it's doable. If you really needed to, in an emergency or even just in a really long night hike in general, you could actually plug your battery bank into this and it works, and you can run off of your battery bank. So you basically can have, I don't want to say infinite power, but you can have lots of juice if you have like a big 10 or 20,000 milliamp hour battery. If you're interested, I'll put a card up here that goes to my in-depth sort of electronics system that I use, and kind of a deep dive into that and explain some things that not everybody knows. So if you haven't seen that, check that one out. You might like it. Really quickly, I want to go over the interfaces and how they differ between what I'm referring to as the classics versus the new ones. So these ones here, they're wonderfully simple. So they basically have two buttons on the top. There's a left button and a right button. When I'm referring to them as my left or my right. So it'd be the opposite side for you. So the left button here is the power, and the right button here is the red light. So when you press this, it cycles through very low, medium, and high, and then off. So there's very low, medium, high, and off. And if you do it on the red side, it goes through low red, high red, and then a strobe, or it might be an SOS. So low, high, I think it's just a strobe, or it's just a whole bunch of S's. But anyway, joking aside, there's another feature in here that you can press and hold while it's off on the left button or the power button, and it turns on a white light. It's a different LED, so this is a softer light. They refer to it as their reading light. It's more of a floodlight and less of a beam light. And then also, if you start with it being on and you press and hold, it goes to turbo, which is its max output, and it's extremely bright. It's impressively bright. The one thing about this that is a little bit different than the new ones is if you turn it on really fast and you want to turn it right back off quickly, you might have some trouble with it, because if you turn it on and you want to turn it off, it's just going to cycle through the modes. So you either have to cycle through 3 times, or once you've left it for about 3 seconds, you press the button and again it shuts off. So I know that sounds like a lot of things, but this layout is really pretty simple. The other thing about this is it has a locking feature where you can press and hold both buttons at the same time. And I don't know if you saw it, but there's a little hidden sort of red LED here that when I locked it, it flashed this little button. And then to unlock it, you press and hold both. And then it comes back on. So that's the classic interface. And so when this new one came out, a lot of people weren't happy because it changed everything. So now the button for power is on the right, it's the opposite. So that threw a lot of people off. But basically what you have to do to turn it on nothing nothing happens, at least the main power button. So you have to press and hold for a couple seconds, and then it turns on a pretty bright level. It's lowest setting, but it's pretty bright. It's closer to this thing's medium. And then from here, you can press and it goes through 3 different settings, but it's kind of like a medium high, a high, and the highest. And then to turn it off, you press and hold the power button again. So it's an entirely different interface, and it doesn't have the low light output in case you just want to look down at something really quick with a little bit of light, but you don't want to blind yourself. So that was one of the things that I liked the least about this, was it went from this one having a really low output, like I want to say it's maybe 5 lumens or something, to this one's lowest output being somewhere in the neighborhood of 100. So I really disliked that. The other thing about this one is that now the left button is its mode button. It changes and it cycles through these different modes. So of course it's got red, and then it has its beam and its flood. But I just don't like that interface as much. So that was a bit frustrating. And then the thing that I liked the least about this is when you go to, oh, it also has a battery level indicator up here at the top. So that way you can see how much juice is left in it, which is a nice addition. This one here did not have one that I'm aware of. So anyway, yeah, so that's basically like the newer version. This one, without spending any time on it, is very similar to this, but I'm happy to say that this new Classic, the new Classic, NU20, actually has this interface again, which I greatly prefer. So all of the functions are the same as this first one, so I'm not gonna go through them all. So let's talk really quickly about some of the pitfalls of this, and I'll show you what they did in sort of their generational line. So a lot of people were taking this, it used to come, or sometimes it still does come with a traditional headband, but these are so light that you don't necessarily need that much material to hold it on your head comfortably. So a lot of people were cutting them off and adding these little elastic cords. And so this particular unit here, it didn't have anything set up for this cordage at all. It's just set up for the headband. And so in order to string this up with some cord, which I have done in the past, you had to kind of put it through these like little honeycomb things. And this is just hard plastic, and there's nothing that comfortable about it. And plus, like I already mentioned, the battery is on the bottom here. So when you fast forward to some of the nice changes that they did on this one here, they started adding some foam in the back, which is comfortable. It's a nice addition. And then they added these little plastic loop pieces that you can loop the cord through. But you can only pass something through there, right? So you actually have to take the end of cord and thread it through and retrace it and retie it if you were to do your own. So that makes it a little bit cumbersome, but at least they gave you that plastic option there so you could add your own cordage. And then they started selling some that had the cordage, the shock cord themselves too. But what I didn't know about the newest one, the NU20 Classic, was that they took things a step further. And so on the back here, hopefully you can see this, on the back here they actually have notches, probably better that way. There's notches in the top and the bottom here, so that way it makes it really fast and easy for you to add or take off some kind of shock cord. So what I've done here for myself is I've just done 2 small loop knots. These are just a fisherman's knot, like a cinch knot, and then I cinched it down pretty close here. I tried it with just a regular overhand knot, but the elastic was stretching and they were coming undone. So anyway, I really was happy to see that, and I hadn't seen that mentioned anywhere else, so I just wanted to share that. And then the other thing is they increased the amount of foam padding in the back too. So the whole back piece here is all a piece of foam, as opposed to the small amount that they added on the newer version of the NU25. So what I really like about this one, just to wrap things up, I really like its simplicity. I prefer the layout of this model. I like the layout better. I really like that it has a very, very low output, and I like that it has 2 different red light modes, like a soft and a strong. Because a lot of times when I'm using the headlamp, just the way that I use my headlamps when I'm backpacking, is I only use it very rarely, and it's usually to try to find something in my tent in the morning, or sometimes if I'm getting up early in the morning and I need to pack up before the sun comes up and it's dark. I like to put the red light on if there's other people sleeping nearby so I don't disturb them, or I don't mess up my night vision. So I really like that this has a super soft red light, but at the same time, sometimes I want to check to do a quick sweep when I think I'm all packed up, and I want to turn a light on really fast just to shine where I was to make sure I didn't leave something obvious on the ground. Well, the red light on the second mode of this is bright enough that that works pretty well, but in something like this, you have to kind of switch to the white light to see a brighter image. So I really do like that about this. So what don't I like about this? Well, to be honest, there's only one thing. There's only one thing in my mind that they did with this new Classic version that I would wish that they did differently. And here's what it is. So I love the battery level indicators and the charging and all the other updates they did. However, when you lock this, you press and hold the two buttons. It flashes the white light to let you know that it's locked, and whenever you press a button, it does a quick strobe of white light to let you know that it's locked. I really wish that it didn't do the white light, because if I am not sure if this thing's locked first thing in the morning and I've got my night vision, I don't want to get a quick flash of white light to be the indicator to me that it's locked. It could be anything else. I'd prefer it to be the red LED to let me know that. It could just flash the battery level indicators at me to let me know there. This one does it in that really nice way where if you press and hold on the top, it flashes up here with a little hidden red LED. And to me, that's perfect. I really wish that they had something like that in here. But that's my only complaint. Everything else I'm super excited about. It's extremely small and light. Let's go through the different modes of the NU20 Classic. So the first button here is the lowest light mode. You press the button again and it goes to the medium. And then you press it 3 times and it goes to bright. The Classic 20 also has a turbo, where if you press and hold the turbo, the left-hand button, when it's already on, it goes to the brightest. Now the interface is different with this one because you see the light keeps turning off. The other one, it cycles through the modes indefinitely. This one, if you wait about 2 or 3 seconds from hitting the button, you hit the button again, it shuts it off. So to go through it really quick, you press the button 1 time, that's low, medium, high, off. But if you turn it on, say medium, and you wait a few seconds, you hit the button again and it shuts off completely. The right button turns on a very low red and it has a brighter red. So this is low, which you might not even be able to really see. And this is red high. The other thing that the Classic has is it has a different feature for a different light. So when you want your floodlight, not your beam, from when it's off you press and hold the left button and it turns on this sort of softer white light that's more of a flood. And that only has the one brightness setting. It uses a different bulb on the, or I should say a different LED on the front of the unit, and then it just shuts off. This is the NU25, so when you press and hold the right side button, this is the lowest it goes. And then when you press it again, it goes brighter and brighter again. And it just keeps cycling between those 3. And as you can see, it's very bright. The spotlight doesn't go out super far. It's probably about 100 feet to, you probably can't even tell it's a fence, but back by those trees. Then it has a mode button, which is the button on the left. And so while the light's already on, you press it once and it goes from its, quote, spotlight to its flood. It looks pretty similar to me. This is bright, flood, and just has the 2 different settings. And then you hit it again and it goes to the red mode. And it just has the 1 red light. Anytime you want to turn it off, you press and hold the right button. So I've added my own shock cord to this. The way that it comes is just like this. This is the exact one that came with it. But this unit is so small and so tiny that this just felt like, to me, an unnecessary amount of material. Not that it's so much heavy, but it's a little bit just more bulky. So I actually went to cut this off, and then I didn't realize until I'd already cut this that I could have just unlooped it by their new design there. And so I thought that was pretty fun that they did that, and I wanted to share that with you. But so here's an example of the difference in the weights of these things. So it's not like this is extremely heavy, but this is 10 grams. And if you compare that to the little quick, thinner shock cord that I have that's got little reflectors in it, it's barely able, my scale can only do things in levels of 1 gram, and basically it's 2 grams. So it's a fifth of the weight of this. So I'm really excited that this is so light that I can get away with having such a simple little system here. You might be able to say like, oh, you could go even later by getting rid of this cord lock and just tying this tight enough to fit you. The reason that I put the cord lock on here is just because this material will stretch out the more you use it, and I wanted something so I could accommodate that level of stretch. So that's why I did that. But really fast, let's just go run down through the line. So this is the original NU25 at 28 grams. And just to directly compare it to this one, it's exactly the same at 28 grams. So that's super exciting to me. I didn't mention it, but this one has a 500 milliamp hour battery versus the current NU25, I think, has a 650? 660, I believe it says. It's hard to read on there. So anyway, there is a significant different size in the battery here. However, I'm okay with the smaller battery size because I'm not usually running it very long myself, and I prefer it to be a smaller, lighter battery in the unit that I can charge more often rather than having a really big, hefty battery bank. Not that this is, but the bigger battery bank to me is just more metal. I prefer less battery because I can always charge it if I have to every day if I need to, or I can actually plug this into my battery bank. This particular unit here, so this is the NU21, is 44 grams. And then the current NU25 is 46 grams. So there's just a very slight difference in weight between those two. And then like we already talked about, just comparing it to something like a more traditional headlamp, this is 99. So it's double the weight. And then one last thing is when I thru-hiked the Continental Divide Trail, I didn't bring a headlamp at all. I just brought this little tiny flashlight here. And so this thing in comparison is even lighter at 23 grams. So you're saving a little bit of weight for this, but to me, the difference between these two in weight and the versatility of having a headlamp as opposed to this needing to clip onto a hat to use, which I hated wearing hats at night, so I didn't use that in that way. I'm just really excited about this because this is, in my opinion, the lightest, most fully featured headlamp that's available, and I would highly, highly recommend that you try this out if you haven't switched to some kind of the really small rechargeable style for all the features that I talked about. All right, so I hope that was helpful. I hope that you learned something, or at least aware of some of the new features that come on the Classic NU20 by Nitecore. Not sponsored by any way. I've bought all of these things over the years just because each time that I bought it, it was kind of what I considered to be the best offering of the headlamp at the time. And so I'm really excited that this guy just came out this past August. I'll put a description for this in the link below, which is an Amazon affiliate link. If you choose to use that to pick up one of these things, it doesn't cost you any more, but it does help support the channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider using that link. The price on these is pretty fantastic. I just saw them today on sale for $29.99, and in my opinion, you just can't beat that price for something this small and light with this many features. So I truly think it's what I would take if I was leaving tomorrow to go do another one of the big three long distance trails, the AT, the CDT, or the PCT, which I've done each, and I would bring this one to redo any one of those three. Thanks so much for watching. Please stay tuned. I've got a whole bunch more content coming out. I've been doing a series of my Pacific Crest Trail journey. I'm on part 5 currently, but I've tried to get one of those coming out about every week or so. And then also I really wanted to mention too that I have a woodworking website. It's linkswoodworking.com. I've made a few of these pieces that you see behind me in my videos, and I've actually had a couple viewers contact me and have custom pieces made for them. So I thought that was awesome. I really enjoyed working with them, putting their start and finish dates on wooden pieces and things like that. So if you're interested in something like that, please check that out as well. Thank you so much.